Nice. Well, that's great. Well, welcome everyone to our Agile Boston podcast for June. I'm Joe D'Angelos, the operational leader for Agile Boston, and we have a wonderful speaker today named Luca Minudel. He's from Italy, but he's living in London for the last 10 years. But he still speaks with a nice Italian accent, which of course I'm very proud of also. And I'm really excited about the talk today that Luke is going to give because, initially, if you remember in last year's Give Thanks for Scrum, we wanted to go back to basics. We wanted to address, why is Agile and Scrum not achieving the results out in the industry that it should be, that we know it can be, and it's been benchmarked to do. We're still seeing 50% of projects, over 50% of projects running late and over budget. And we're seeing, a lot of jobs being lost within the industry, especially with Agile coaches and with Scrum Masters. So we wanted to address that. We feel it's a pressing issue in the Agile industry. And so as we've been talking this year about going back to the basics of empiricism and lean thinking and self-management, we're also trying to address the issue of, hey, what can we do as Agilists, to understand what's going on in the industry and to adapt positively to it, to be better and to help the industry move forward in the best way possible. And in these presentations that we have will culminate in this year's Give Thanks for Scrum, which is going to be on November 26th, Tuesday before U.S. Thanksgiving. It's going to be live in person at the Microsoft building as it was last year. Tickets will be going on sale soon. And we're going to be addressing this exact topic. What has changed in the industry and how do we as Agilists adapt to it and become successful in it? And today, Luca is going to be talking about a lot of this, what has happened in the last decade, what has gone wrong, and what are things that we can do to right the ship. And Luca's got a lot of good ideas and a lot of good suggestions. So we're very, very happy to have Luca join us today from London. And let's give a warm Agile Boston welcome to Luca. Thanks for being here. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to share with you my reflection on the state of Agile. And I will take that as a starting point to have a conversation with you. I'm sharing now on the chat a few links. I'm doing it now before jumping into a few slides. So this is the Slido survey that I will use during the first half of my presentation to get a sense about you and later to ask some questions and allow you to suggest topics that you want to discuss and also vote them. I'm going also to share some other content. If you feel the urge to multitask, I wouldn't suggest that. You probably want to look at these links after the presentation, but if you feel the urge to multitask, here are some of the links that are related to the content that I'm going to present. Can I share the screen now, Joseph? Can I share my screen? You are on mute, Joseph. Now I'm not allowed to share.
You can do it.
Now I am. Give me a sec. So the only things that interesting about me in relation to these topics is that I'm an all-time Agile practitioner, and I have explored Agile, Lean, and human complexity. Why this is interesting? Well, we were talking about going back to the basics, so I have my roots there, and I hope that these roots will help me today. I already shared it with you. Let's start to get to know you a little more with this question. when did you get started with practicing Agile? Those are the possible answers. So pre-Agile era, at the very beginning, mainly the era of rogue teams doing Agile under the radar, or the golden age, while Agile was crossing the chasm to become mainstream, later, or right now. Okay, now you should have on your chat, you should have the link with the Slido. Here you have the ID or the QR code. Please jump in and share.
Where do we find the poll?
It's in
So
chat.
on the chat, you got the link, or you can go to slido.com 3033250. Both ways work.
Luca, which link is it? The first one? Post with my view or?
Yes, the first one.
Can everyone see that first link?
It says post with my view and it says SM Harder blog. No.
No. Let me share again the link. This
It might
one.
be easier just to have everybody go to slido.com and then right at the top in the middle, you can put in this code and it'll prompt you to come here.
Okay, I got it. All right.
So far. Yeah. Let's wait a little more, but we have about 16 votes, and more or less half started before Agile became mainstream, and more or less half started later. So I would expect that part of you will recognize some of my reasoning, or I will have a sense of where it comes from, and maybe half of you will find my reasoning unexpected or new. Let's see. Okay, I have another question to ask you. This is the second pool. So what is your current opinion on the state of Agile? How teams are practicing Agile? How Agile adoptions are going? How are we doing as an Agile community? And I'm thinking about success as being successful in the delivery, as creating a positive impact in terms of business and customers, creating sustainable improvements, and having happy team members. So do you have a negative feeling of the current state of Agile, neutral or positive? And just like before, now on Slido, you will find the second survey that is opening. Still some votes to come. And I'm really interesting about your perspective. There's no right answers, of course, other than what you think. Let's see. Maybe we are waiting for a few more votes. Oh, we are almost there. Well, positive is the minority, and then it's between neutral and negative. Before jumping into the Q&A, I will not shy away from telling my point of view. And my point of view is quite negative. I have quite a negative view of the state of Agile. And I find a need, I really feel and believe that we need to move beyond the current state, specifically beyond the widespread misunderstanding and misinterpretations that I see around, and also the economical exploitation that feels too much, feels has replaced the original ethos of Agile when it started. So where do we come from? I think many of you that started and got into Agile early won't be surprised by this. But during the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of medium and large size software projects had more chances to fail than to succeed. It was like the status quo, it was normal. You will go into a software project and that wouldn't go as expected at all, and maybe would not even deliver anything in the end. At the same time, more or less at the same time, based on how internet was becoming popular and widespread in your geographic area, there was a spectacular success of the open source movement. So people, after office hours, volunteer to work for free online, and they realized the software applications that enterprises with all their budget, governance, policies, processes, and bureaucracies were not able to realize. The open source movement highlighted the amount of wasted human capital in most of the enterprises and in the traditional way to approach software development. At the same time, Agile was reaching the tipping point with the Agile Manifesto to switch from a paradigm of imposition and predictive approach based on process, from there to a completely new paradigm of invitation. Well, the invitation bit at the time was not a deliberate decision. No one knew about Agile, someone got into it, and then we invited other team members. Have you tried this before? What do you think about it? Is it working well with you as much as it's working well with me? So team members were inviting other team members, and teams were inviting other teams inside the organization to try these things. So we had the invitation, an empiric approach to work, experimental, an adaptive approach, and human and people collaboration. This was a completely different approach. So this is where we come from. Where are we now? Or at least, again, this is my... I'm looking at the last State of Agile report, and I'm looking at the market share of different frameworks. And I noticed that in general, all the scaled frameworks are losing market share. The biggest ones, Safe, have the market share, but even Scrum at Scale and Scrum of Scrum went down a third. Instead, surprisingly, something is changing. 22% of organizations are starting not to mandate a specific framework at enterprise level anymore. Someone is raising an hand. Please go.
Yeah, can you just zoom? I can't read what the thing says.
I'm not sure I can. Let me check one thing. Let me check what I can find for you now.
Yeah, maybe you could just read the more important takeaways. I know you have them written there on the slide, but and also your source of information would be useful to know. Thank you.
So, yes, I'm trying to. And now I'm going to share a screen again. Yeah, this one. Can you see now? Now I'm
Yes.
able to zoom
Thank you.
in. So you see, this is last year, 23% and 28 Scrum of Scrum. Then you have different framework, mainly scaled framework. Then other framework, and not sure, is 8%, 50%. Then this is 2022, and this is 2023. Maybe someone can suggest the right name. This used to be Rally State of Agile Annual Report. I think this report has been sold or outsourced, so now someone else is doing that. But that is the report. Let me see. Let me see if I find for you the source, or I find somewhere with the link. So in general, what you see is that scaled framework are really losing a large part of their market share. And I don't know what is going on in your geographic area, but I can tell you that here in UK, well, in general, online, but also mouth-to-mouth stories. We hear CEOs, we hear leadership, we hear teams sharing story of failed adoption of Agile at scale, failed transformation initiative, and these stories are going around. It's almost 20 years that scaled Agile framework are, in general, are popular. 20 years that Agile became mainstream, and all this mainstream Agile is not working as well as the Agile that made Agile popular. So as soon as Agile has become mainstream, something happened. Let me share again. Well, first of all, here you find a LinkedIn post. Inside that LinkedIn post, somewhere you find the link to the State of Agile report, the last one. And I'm sure that if you search, you can track back and find the one from the previous year. So I hope this is giving you
Thank you.
the answers. Now I try to continue with the yeah, on the next step of the presentation. So let me and thank you for the question. Thank you. Please ask more questions if I. So going back to my very personal perspective on this, I hope I'm not offending everyone. These are my opinion, and I'm attacking the problem. I'm not attacking the people. But let me be blunt and honest and not diplomatic. So please don't be offended. Just disagree with me, but don't be offended. Agile until 2008, 2010, so before it became mainstream, as I told you before, it was invited, it was empiric, adaptable, people and collaboration centric and simple. But after Agile became mainstream, things started to change. And the way that I perceived this change is that I saw Agile being imposed, being prescriptive and predictive. So those elements of prescriptive and predictive approach came back with Agile clothes, but still they came back process-centric, overcomplicated, and rigid. I see many of these elements in many safe adoption, for example. So why we went there? And again, that's my experience and what I have observed. And what I start to become mainstream, Agile pioneers and experienced practitioners, they were a small group of people, and instead a large group of people started to join the Agile revolution. And so all the experts were very thin, spread very thin, and people started to learn from second, third, and learning with a lot of misinterpretation, misunderstanding, and misrepresentation. then those agile practitioners after 2010 struggled to find teams that were doing agile well. It was harder because the number of teams doing well, the number of experienced agile teams were limited compared to this exponential growth agile, and people wanted to experience agile. So it was more to get into an agile team with very low experience and confuse an absolute beginner level of agile as a level of mastery or what looks good in agile. And people thought, oh, this is agile. No, this is the first step of the most basic elements of agile. And a lot of people got confused. And then, sorry, I'm going too fast. And then you just needed to know a little more of those that never heard about Agile to declare yourself as an expert. And this happened to practitioners, to trainers, to certification bodies, and large consultancy companies. They thought they were expert because everyone else knew less than them. The second element that I noticed is the explosion of the certification market and thought leaders also leading the way into the economical exploitation and self-promotion. During 2010, the ethos of the community was very different. We were sharing our learning, we were sharing our failures, we were learning from each other and improving ourselves and improving practices, technique, and framework through our feedback and conversations. But after Agile became mainstream, self-promotion and commercial exploitation took center and things changed. But point is, in my experience, that sharing, that comparing experiences, that learning from each other is a fundamental ingredient that make Agile work. So many pioneers, so a lot of very new and inexperienced Agile practitioners presenting themselves as expert to organization, telling, I know how to do Agile, I can help you adopt Agile. And many of these experts to diversify themselves started to present a closed proprietary solution. Oh, I have the magic ingredient to scale. But all this approach lead to missing peer review, missing feedback, and the wisdom of the crowd was lost. So that's how SAFe happened. In the last 2 decades, a lot of feedback, for example, has been given from the community to SAFe. Since it's so popular, let's make it work. And that has been ignored. The contributions are closed. You can contribute, but your contributions are ignored. And negative feedback is ignored because it's not good for the business. That's the mindset. Certification went very badly. What was intended to be a declaration of a first step into a learning journey was misunderstood as a fake declaration of mastery. So people, many of you with absolutely, and myself at times, with absolutely no bad intention, have the Agile certification in their LinkedIn profile. Every certification tells that you are starting a learning journey, not that you are a master and that you know more than others. Note that every experienced Agile practitioner don't have certification because they don't need it. They learn it on the ground. And again, pioneers branding and starting to focus on their personal branding instead of contributing like before to the Agile community, making the Agile community poorer and less effective because this drain of brain. And last point that I want to share, again, my opinion, is that if I look Agile since 2010, I see a lot of magical thinking around. I don't know if some of you know the history of math, but at the beginning, there were a lot of individual smart people solving mathematical problems. At some point, math started to feel like a field in itself, and new mathematicians started to build on the work of other mathematicians. But they started to wonder, are those foundations solid? Can I build on top of someone else's work, or is that work flawed? And if I build something, can someone else build on top of my work? So the question of foundation started to come into math, and there has been a review of math knowledge in order to test and then to share a solid foundation. Between 2000 and 2008, many Agile practitioners started to have success with Agile. We started to succeed time after time and after time. And we started to love Agile. And we started to think, I want to invest a lot of time into this. I want to make this a big part of my career because I love it and it's working. But then we started to wonder, like in math, are these some foundations solid, or are we joking? Are we fooling ourselves? Maybe in 10 years, people will realize that it's just a flawed foundation and we will lose our credibility. So we started to challenge the idea, start to look for theoretical demonstration that things were actually working for a good reason, start to look at the real case studies, not to make marketing a sales point, but to prove if things were working or not beside my team. Not just it work on my machine, it work on many teams, on different departments, maybe it works in different organizations. Now, if you ask what are the foundation of a specific practice, let's talk about OKRs. Again, very personal opinion, OKRs has nothing to do with Agile, and the foundation of OKRs are flawed. If you look at the case studies, you will discover that they are wrong. They don't prove what they say they prove. We don't question anymore the practices as we did. So everyone is doing Agile. That's why it works, because everyone is doing it. But at the beginning, no one knew about Agile. Everyone was telling, when you were proposing a team or an organization, who else is doing it? These ideas sounds crazy. How can you prove it actually work? And how can you say it will work for me and my company? And so we had to deliver a long, we had to start rogue, under the radar. We had to succeed multiple times. And after we succeeded multiple times, people came back to us and say, what the hell are you doing while you are succeeding when everyone else is failing? And sometimes they told us, can we do this in other teams? So succeeding was our testing ground, was our baptism of the fire. But nowadays, everyone wants to do Agile. You say Agile and, oh, come and teach me. We don't have that test of actually delivering anymore. And we live in magical thinking. We create a new practice, we create a website, we write a book, we sell certification, and if everyone do it, it must be right. And so here you see, everyone wants to do Agile, word their CV, and we end up being full with the allegedly Agile recipe that have no real success stories other than those made up by the marketing department. And if you go and study the marketing department, you discover that is not like they say. Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, you said something that triggered something as I was listening to you, and I do feel like a lot of people, instead of contributing to the Agile and Scrum world in a positive way, they've tried to figure out, well, how can they spin it, or how can they sort of rebrand it and come up with their own sort of manifesto, or their own sort of set of rules or guidelines, so that so it can be theirs. And I think that's hurt the industry quite a bit. There's a lot of resentment, frankly, towards Jeff and Ken that Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schraber that I don't understand. I really don't. I mean, they're the foundations to this. And I feel like in the industry, instead of kind of paying tribute to them and building upon what they've done in a positive way, people have tried to sort of carve their own solution and make their own money out of it. And I think that's really hurt it. That's just my opinion. I don't know what others think.
Yeah, there are many legal problem of people trying to appropriate others people's idea and patent, and many litigations going on. And that's not the ethos of the Agile movement, that is very similar to the open source movement at the beginning. So I agree with you. And what you say, trying to spin things in their own way and suggest a method. Let me do 2 examples that I really appreciate. There are good ideas in team topologies. We are talking about software development here. Just 2 examples, and the feature teams that later has been embedded into LESS. Those are 2 great techniques, but every one of those camps is selling their recipe as a silver bullet. So we had 2 great ideas that the way that we deal things today is to sell, and to me, they become ineffective. Team topologies have a context where it works and a context where it stopped working. Same things for feature teams. If you try to convince me that they are a silver bullet, you don't know what you are doing, or you are lying to me to make money. Either way, there's something wrong that I dislike there. The right conversation between professionals, as we used to have 20 years ago, 10 years ago, would be where this start to work, when this stop to work. This is my context. What should I do? Should I take some of these and some of that? Should I go here? Should I go there? That's the useful conversation that you should have at the conference in the highway with other practitioners that try that in their own context and try to compare notes, and then go on with experiments that you want to try and to learn from feedback, not to create a program or a roadmap to do an adoption of a branded solution. I don't know if this answered a little your question, Joseph.
No, it's great because I can give you an example where when I started at a company, the VP said to me, well, I'm bringing in this consulting group and I'd like you to work with them. And I said, well, what consulting group? And he told me, and I won't say the name here. And I said, well, that's a staffing firm. It's not an agile consulting. Oh no, they do this, they do all other stuff. And I'm like, you're not going to like them and they're going to fail. And he said, no, Joe, just sit back and well, okay, fine. And I did. And they were fired within 5 months. And they were fired within 5 months because they went in and they just, spewed what they spewed everywhere was, oh, this is how you write a story. And then you create a team and blah, blah, blah. And never once did they talk about empiricism, lean thinking, self-management, all the stuff, bringing decisions down to the teams or the lowest point in the organization. They never talked about any of this stuff. And as a result, the company saw nothing out of it. And after 5 months, they said, yeah, this is a waste of our time. So yeah, we're seeing, I've seen it happen over and over again.
Yeah, so I shared a lot of different ideas, but analyzing all the points is like a domino effect. I started at the beginning telling the story how Agile adoption initially was based on invitation. We were inviting each other. And when we look at the paradigm of putting people at the center and people that are the most flexible element of the organization, that can run experiment, that can absorb and deal and tackle complexity, how the imposition versus invitation element is really a litmus test if you understood the new paradigm or if you are still rooted in the old one. So now I would like to open the floor. I say a lot of things, but now I would like to hear your thought. Just like before, I opened the Q&A in Slido. So you can suggest the topics or questions. Oh, please, James, raise of hand works too.
Thank you.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Good stuff. If I think we kind of all agreed that Agile is in a poor state in terms of implementation in the field. I'm not sure that I agree with the premise. If I got your premise right, you're saying sort of the industrialization certification mill, which does exist, is part of the problem. The other part is sort of frameworks and people dictating towards the frameworks. I'm not sure that those two are really the root causes. To me, the root cause has always been management. So back in the old days in 2008, yeah, we had those single teams. We were doing proof of concept, we were doing experiments, but management wasn't paying much attention. It was more, I was actually on a team in 2008 and they were like, yeah, okay, take that team of 5 people and go do this thing over here. It was kind of a side project and it did succeed. And then they said, oh, okay, so let's do that for everybody. But now you're not a little proof of concept and things like that. We need to start reporting because the software you're developing, we need to tell product what's happening. We need to tell the C-suite what's happening. We need status reports. And so all of a sudden it became institutionalized. And at that point, it wasn't following Agile, the 4 pillars and the 12 principles. It was being dictated to us that, well, due to reporting, this is what you're going to need. And oh, by the way, the development environments, we don't have the test framework in the development environment. So we're going to do a development sprint and then a test sprint. And those were all decisions that middle to senior management made that was anti-Agile. So to me, it's kind of always been the problem is that the who adopt, whether they're mid-managers or senior managers, don't really know what they're getting themselves into. And instead of shuhari, they start with customization, even though they don't really understand what anything is. And they start with customization of something they don't understand, and they get bad results and a lot of confusion because people get certified, you know, they go off to get a CSM, they come back and they say, well, we should be doing this. And management's like, nah, not here though. We got to be practical. Okay, that word practical gets thrown around a lot in management. And what it really means is, yeah, we're going to pick of those 4, you know, pillars and 12 principles. We're going to pick and choose 3 or 4 of these and 1 or 2 of those, but we're not really going to do Agile. We're going to do our Agile. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I guess many had that experience. And in that situation, did managers or the company ever call someone external to help?
I've been doing,
Agile
like I said,
coach?
I've been doing this since like 2008. Some of them relied on outside consultancies and some didn't. It's kind of a mixed bag. And that's why I'm saying, to me, the common theme, it was small organizations, large organizations. It was software, it was, you know, back office for retail, lots of different industries. The common element was, no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it our way. And even when consultants came in, you know, they gave all the PowerPoints and everything. And then management said, okay, but here's how we got to change everything. And paid consultants are like, oh, okay, sure. Okay, well, you know, let's go ahead and do that because they're getting paid to be agreeable. And if it was not consultants rather than staff people, it was like, well, but you're just a Scrum Master and you're just an Agile coach. I'm the senior, you know, development manager. I'm the director of engineering. So here's how we're going to do this because of our constraints and limitations and budgets.
Bob, you want to add something? Jump in.
Yeah, can you just unshare your screen so we can see each other a little better?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have a comment too. So this topic has been on my mind for 3 or 4 years. And like many of us, I'm guilty of needing to have income. So I joined a commercial organization, which I've since left. That was monetizing the whole movement. And the primary reason I left is exactly what Joe said. It's like, we need to be able to deliver quality consulting advice to our clients and get all the commercial crap out of the way. And but I've been fine, successful, more demand for my services, whatever. So we can do it. So the services, I think in a nutshell, that the problem, and yes, I don't know everybody here yet, James, leadership, I concluded leadership is the problem for a long time, but the next question is, okay, that's the problem, what's the solution? And so I started working with my various clients and colleagues, and really, and I know that Scrum Org and Scrum Inc. and there's all these different groups and everything. I see you guys as super professional, and I appreciate all the meetups and everything else and conversations that you guys host. What I learned, and actually this was quite a while ago, this was like 2018. It's like, all right, we got this team stood up, we're doing team Scrum, whatever, but we're really just doing Scrum. Well, like, where's the value? So they asked me to come in and teach leadership. And so I had the liberty to design my own workshop and create a message for them that I thought was most appropriate for them. This happened to be a marketing group, not even a technical group. So I am technical. I've never worked in marketing. The marketing guys saw the IT guys turn around. So they're like, we want to try this stuff in marketing, because we can see that from an execution standpoint, it works. So initially, yes, we stood up the four teams, 40 people or something. And they were executing super well, delivering in like 2 days instead of 3 weeks, and changing, pivoting, all that stuff. So then I was like, all right, these guys want to hear more of what I might have to share. So anyway, the leadership mindset training was literally focused on outcomes instead of outputs. And we talked about, what is the value of Agile? What value are you all looking for? We started talking about outcome metrics, and this was higher ed, actually. And so the outcome metrics for them, very obvious from day one. They're missing their enrollment targets, and they always have to do some crazy, like, whatever, as the numbers are coming in and they only have a month to go and everything's an emergency and all that stuff. So with the better execution, they then realized, a better execution can certainly lead to better outcomes. But we also really marketing department, with the latest tools on Google and Facebook and stuff, you can actually test your messaging in less than 24 hours. You can put out an article with 4 different titles, same article, and get feedback from those platforms. Which one is connecting with the audience that I want to connect to? And so we really started to drive outcomes versus outputs. And then since then, that was many years ago, I've adjusted my own mindset and consulting, whatever you might want to call it. Like, once the teams get up and running and they're doing Agile, that is just not enough. The next phase has to be working with leadership. And outcomes, there's a lot of very tiny things that need to change, including the conversations that you have and who you have them with and the language that you use, like at your sprint review meetings, right? Presumably you have your stakeholders in there and they're your sponsors of the program, and they need to understand the value of this thing, or they're going to just stop it. So then it can evolve further.
Can I ask something more? Because I heard 2 stories, and I hear team level and then management and leadership level, and that your experiences resonate with me too. So I don't have to disagree with that. I have other experiences where the Agile adoption is, I don't know if it is because they are bigger companies or because it's trying to challenge more the companies and the official reporting, the official governance, the official policies, and then it starts to become more a question of how do we look at the organization and how do we understand the organization works. When we talk about Agile and we go back, for example, to invitation, that is a revolution of the power structure. One of the principles of XP, of the creation of extreme programming, was that people doing the work need to have the authority to take decision for everything they were responsible for. And if we extend this beyond the team, we are talking about turning upside down the power structure. We are talking about challenging how performance review works. We are talking about challenging the structure of the organization. So from that apparently simple imposition versus invitation, and that empirical, that require you to be a taxi driver, not a bus driver with a given route, it's quite an explosive change. So I was wondering, has anyone hit that wall beyond the team and beyond the leadership? Does this make sense also, Joel and Bob, with your... Anyone else want to jump in, please?
That's definitely my experience, what you're talking about, Luca, which is why I raised the question if we really understand the root issues. And the root issues really revolve, I believe, really large questions that are happening in society at large, and to expand the scope of our thinking in order to help people tune into what's really authentically true and real, and especially human. This is one of the things that AI is driving. And I think we're going to have trouble being leaders, thought leaders, in helping collect people into a better path, a better way, with all the very valuable experiential experience everyone brings and the practices they're bringing. The society at large is facing a very, very large question of how do we authentically tune into healthy authority to? How are we doing it? How has it been broken? And it has, and it is. And we're looking at a fourth turning right now. And I would really love for people like you, the brilliant practitioners with you that really understand systems, to be able to engage in these questions, because we're looking at some pretty ignorant forces driving very large decisions at very high levels of leadership that are doing it from what Luca presented in the beginning: ego and just seeking after money and things that don't lead to good human outcomes.
Yeah, those things are deeply rooted in our experience and belief. And so my question, when some company brings in agile coaches, large consultancy firms, or companies selling big transformation and big scaled framework, my question is, are those value and those understanding of those powerful things are there? And are those reflected in the way that they ultimately act with the leadership and themselves? The way, think about agile transformation, most of the time is a big bang budgeting activity leading to a program defined by a roadmap. It is the opposite of what we are trying to do. And people that do that come in and say, yeah, we sell you with the big bang budget, we do a roadmap, we work in program, but you know, to succeed, you have to do agile. Sure, are you doing that? Are you living that? Is this how you run your company? So why should I run mine? And how can you tell me that you know how to run successful a company with agile while you are not doing it right now with us, with this transformation? Please, if everyone wants to join, this is an open conversation. Don't just, well, write on the chat, but jump in, open your audio and share your thoughts.
Okay, I'm going to say something. And here's what it is. The secret is that I highly recommended Luca for this talk today at Agile Boston. Why? Because if I have anything to do with it, I would like to see Luca become one of the new thought leaders and one of the stewards of the new thing. Okay, the old so-called stewards have done a deplorable job of maintaining the commons. It's led to all kinds of bad behavior. Luca called it unscrupulous, which covers a wide range of really bad behavior. Meanwhile, everyone's preaching love and collaboration, and it's really about the one book calls it the filthy lucre, right? So what we need to do is authorize a new set of leaders and see some new institutions emerge from that. So if I have anything to do with it, if I'm on social media and I see you saying things like Luca is saying, I'm going to do everything I can to amplify your voice, and I'm going to recommend you to conferences, and I'm going to come to your talks. Okay. So we collectively have done a horrible job of authorizing and deauthorizing good leaders and bad leaders, and we need to be much more conscious of what and who we're authorizing. So, for example, you're here right now listening to this speaker. You are authorizing his voice with your presence, right? And it goes the other way. When other speakers, the legacy thought leaders who are like all part of the same mess, right? Don't go to their talks. Don't even go to the conference where they're talking. Deauthorize all this crap and build something new by authorizing people that are building something new and sticking their neck out by saying something about it. So that's my rant. I hope that's somewhat stimulating for some of us here. And if you know of any other good speakers like Luca who are sticking their neck out and are saying the difficult things, definitely let us know at Agile Boston. We would love to have that speaker come and tell us what they think and what they're doing about it. Okay, so there you go.
Daniel, a reflection hearing you. Well, first of all, I don't think I'm doing anything special. I love to succeed when I start to do Agile, and I try to do it again and again because I like to succeed as a team. So I don't feel I'm doing anything other than doing what I learned that works well. I don't feel I'm doing anything different from the beginning. But hearing you, I hear some comment about management, and let's be clear, leadership management, we need to engage with all the organization and to help them understand Agile beyond team. That's definitely our work. But maybe what I was trying also to say is to try to apply the same principle to us as practitioners and ask, are we walking the walk, or are we talking the talk? When we got excited about team topologies, I told you I love it, but should I scream team topology is great, or should I scream stop it and think about the trade-off between team topology and feature teams and maybe something else? Should I say I love this framework, or should I say take all the ideas from all the framework as long as they are good for your environment? And then look at people around me and see who is behaving the way that they are teaching and who is not. And maybe because they don't realize it, not because they are bad people, and I'm not a good, who knows if I'm good? You don't know, but are they walking the walk professionally or not? And let's call that out to help them learn and improve, because that's the spirit of open source and Agile. We say, look, I don't think what you are doing is working, at least not for me. I got this output instead of the other, or this outcome instead of the other. Let's try something different. So let's do it also to our community, and let's also call out those that don't listen, because large consultancy firms have hired many of us, people that try to tell them, stop doing this, start doing that, and they have been ignored. large framework like SAFe have received a lot of love in terms of feedback and suggestion for improvement that has been ignored. How much enough is enough? And then we have our members of the community now. Okay, I took the example of OKRs, but do we know where the idea come from? Where is the root of OKRs? Are they aligned to the empirical approach, or is just a second thought? And then when we look at the case studies in Intel and Google, do they started with a new brand new product where they had to find a market fit, or do they started with a product that was already making a lot of money and it's easy to call it a success? It was already so. Having a critical thinking doesn't mean try to destroy someone else's ideas. It means understanding the root and giving the tools to also to adapt those things.
Well, you know, Luca, what's funny is there's an old saying in politics: you don't answer the question that's asked, you answer the question that you want to answer. And I believe that's the way it's been in the agile world for the last decade. We come in and we're not interested in the problems of the company. We're just interested in selling them what we have and convincing them that this is the solution to whatever problems they don't even know they have. And I think that's been the big concern. I mean, I always say when I walk into a company or do any consulting at all, it's about, okay, what problems are you having? And then let's see what's out there to solve it, that we can try. And it's not about, hey, you have to be Scrum at scale, or you have to be safe, or you have to use this, or you have to use that. It's about pulling from our knowledge and our experience and from our environment to say, what could we do to solve this company's problems? And I think if we spent more time doing that, I think we'd be a lot more successful.
George, maybe what I'm adding, we should not only do that, but we should talk with other agile practitioners and tell them this is how you do it. You don't invite a large consultancy company, you don't buy in one large framework, you don't exposure marry technique without knowing if it is right for this context. So we need to re-educate each other and be curious and bring back the critical thinking among us.
And this is why, you know, I've always encouraged leaders that I've worked with to join these types of sessions. You know, join Agile Boston, join Agile New England, or wherever you're from, Agile India, whatever. Go to those meetings, go to those meetups, meet other people, hear what they have to say. And then be more educated before you start talking to people that are so-called consultants about what they would or wouldn't do. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, I still come to these all the time because I don't just organize them. I learn so much about it. I continue to learn. That's what it's all about.
I see we are close to the hours.
Yeah,
but
we have 2 minutes.
I read a lot of comment from people that didn't come on screen or on audio. Trish, Harold, I saw Steve before. Anyone else want to, before we finish, to say something? The opportunity to speak before we say goodbye, to share your thought.
And Luca, in the meantime, Luca, how can people get in touch with you? How can they continue the conversation with you?
Well, let me share some links on some of the activity that I have. Well, you find me on LinkedIn with my name and surname. You find me on Mastodon. You also find me on Twitter, even if I do not like it anymore. You find me on Blue Sky. And here are some of the activity included community activities. Trish, you didn't speak before. Please jump in. I see your hand is raised, Trish Lynch. Unmute yourself and speak. No, I cannot hear you.
We can't hear you, Trish. It does look like you're unmuted, but we don't hear you right now. Sorry, must be an audio issue. Anyway, we're at time. Oh, she's having audio issues. Sorry, but definitely, Trish, reach out to us or reach out to Luca directly on LinkedIn and continue the conversation for sure. Luca, we want to thank you very much. This has been a great presentation and a great discussion. Guys, and everyone, just to let you know, we have these monthly at the fourth Wednesday of every month. We'll probably be skipping August because it's hot and it's summer and we want to have that last weekend before our kids go back to school or whatever. But then we'll be picking it up. So we'll be presenting next month in July. Will be Heidi Herrera. We'll take August off, and then we'll be presenting in September and October, and then in November, of course, Give Thanks for Scrum on November 26th. Please look for marketing around that and early bird ticket prices on that. And again, the topic of Give Thanks for Scrum will be this topic, so it will be something very relevant and all right. So with that, I'm going to say good day to everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you again, Luca.
Thank
Ciao.
you all.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.